Hello and welcome to episode 1 of the Jet Report. What is going on? I am Matt O'Leary. We'll be coming to you live on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 2 p.m. Hanging out for, I don't know, we'll see how long this goes. Probably, I'm going to guess, rough estimate, 30 to 40-minute episodes. Don't expect them to be crazy long, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And also, as you'll see if you're watching this live on the graphics ticker, you have that this is also available on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or really wherever it is that you get your podcasts. I know that these are the two most popular ones, but pretty much anywhere that you can get a podcast, you will have access to this show after the fact. So if you missed it live and maybe you're someone who prefers audio only, you'll be able to have that too. We'll be going through comment questions later on in the show. Super chats jump the line, so those will be prioritized. Appreciate you guys joining me. It is a Victory Monday, a Zach Wilson debut, and a little bit of a Q&A. In this episode, what I wanted to do before we even really get started, just so you guys are aware in these live streams, and the reason why I added this feature too is because we're going to be doing a lot more live streams, and this is much more common in live stream format. But we have a join this channel. You could join with a membership, the crew. You get a badge next to your name for the live chats, so you are an official member of the crew. You also get some custom gifts that you could be throwing up in the chat, things you absolutely just love to see. So if you are interested in joining, you can do that right on the channel. You'll see a join button, and away we go. I'm excited to get into this one. So the biggest storyline that we want to get into today, if you didn't see the video I had this morning out, I talked about Quinnen Williams and how I thought he was downright dominant. It was really a dominant effort from what we saw from Quinnen Williams. But what I want to get into is the gutsy performance that was Zach Wilson's in the fourth quarter and in the second half of this football game. The stat line isn't phenomenal. 18 to 36, which is just 50% of his passes. In the first half, that number or completion percentage was even lower, which obviously is not a great sign. You would like that to be a little bit higher, but I mean, how many freaking drops are we going to have to deal with watching this football team? It's truly baffling just watching how many times this team is just it's mind numbing. I mean, a perfect example, I'm going to this way earlier than I would have liked to, but I'm going to pull it up. A perfect example is on that second interception in the game. The first one was not pretty. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It wasn't pretty. He should not have made that throw, Zach Wilson, obviously. But the second one legitimately hit Tyler Conklin directly in the hands. And was it a little bit on the high side? Yeah, it was. It was a touch on the high side, but it was not nearly bad enough to where the play, one, should have been intercepted, or number two, should have been dropped. Like, how is this really a thing? As I tweeted out, and a lot of people agree with me, 259 likes. What if I told you this turned into an interception? I mean, come on. That hits him. Is it above his head? Yes, but catch it, pull it in, and fall forward. That's it. You're not asking for him to reinvent the wheel here. It's not rocket science. That was unbelievably frustrating. You had a couple other drops, and it's like, is it too much to ask for to help out this young quarterback? It seemed that way at times. It really did feel that way at times, but overall in the second half, man, there were some clutch third down throws and fourth down throws. How about Corey Davis? Someone who, I mean, let's face it, is at times someone who comes up with some brutal drops, but man, oh man, was he clutch. And man, oh man, was Zach Wilson clutch in that third and fourth quarter. Just absolutely stuff that you love to see from a young quarterback. That's my biggest takeaway from Zach Wilson, is how he rebounded and how he bounced back. The 18 to 36 for 50% completion percentage is obviously low, but 252 yards, one passing touchdown, also had a receiving touchdown. Loved Mike LaFleur in his bag, by the way. 2 picks, One, his fault. The other, not exactly his fault. It went off his tight end's hands, which should have been caught and probably should have been a first down. 7 yards per attempt and a 59 quarterback rating. Again, not obviously that's not pretty. That's not going to put him in Canton, but once again, it's really more so about what he did in the fourth quarter. And that's why I'm so excited about Zach Wilson today is that fourth quarter performance. 10 of 12 for 128 yards and a touchdown. If that's not a bounce back performance, I don't know what is. 128 yards, 10 of 12. Completion percentage skyrocketed up. It was like 33%. He was completing like 33% of his passes. Getting it back up to 50 almost feels like a miracle at this point. But I have to say, I am really, really impressed with what we've seen so far from this Jets quarterback in Zach Wilson yesterday. There were a lot of things, obviously, that he could improve on. But just think about the games that they had with Joe Flacco and just some of the frustrations that boiled over, right? With the sacks. It seemed like anytime he got sacked, he fumbled. That was obvious in the last start against Cincinnati as their defensive line was all over the place. But with a makeshift offensive line, Zach Wilson was able to run and escape pressure. And something else, which was a positive sign, he was trying to throw the ball away. We love that. We love a king who throws the ball away. That's a positive. Too many times last year as a rookie, this was a guy who was holding on to the ball for too long and throwing it up for grabs and trying to make a play. It's okay to give up on a play and throw it out of bounds. And I think that's what Zach Wilson's learning. And I think it's only up from here. I think he's only going to get better from here. And we'll see. Obviously, there's 13 more games left. He has to cut down on interceptions. He did throw 2, which again, one his fault, one not exactly his fault, but I don't know. I was happy with the Zach Wilson debut. I thought it showed some guts and some moxie to come back in the game. They were up at one point they were up by 10 points and then ended up down by 10 points. And they had a comeback win. It's very rare that we've seen quarterbacks over the last couple of years for this Jets team really have a comeback drive and a comeback game. And that's what he was. He was calm, cool, and collected in that fourth quarter. That's enough to get you excited. It really is. And I'm happy we get to celebrate a victory Monday today. 2-2 through the first 4 games when you were without your starting quarterback is a great sign. We're going to get into your thoughts in the comment section, obviously, on this past game as well. But 2-2, and I see a little bit in the comment section with some people talking about this, and we're going to pull it up right now. I'm not going to go too in depth on this game coming up against the Miami Dolphins. Obviously, a rivalry game and a game you would like to see them win in the division. But the Miami Dolphins will be without Tua Tagovailoa. Mike McDaniel announced that Tua will be out this week against the Jets. He is still in concussion protocol. So I quote tweeted and said Teddy Bridgewater will be the one starting against the Jets on Sunday. So a game in which it might have felt like, oh my God, when you saw the first 3 games for this Miami Dolphins team, they came out with their hair on fire, right? But completely mismanaged the Tua Tagovailoa injury situation, whether it was a week 3 and the upset win against Buffalo, or this past week with he should not have been out there after obviously suffering a concussion just 4 days earlier. He plays on Thursday Night Football. He gets hurt again. So now the Jets will be playing at home against the backup quarterback. You're 0-2 at home so far. The offense has stunk in both home games. They only have 1 touchdown, and it came in garbage time of the first game. The game was already over at that point. It was 28-3, 24-3, something like that at the time. I forget what the final score was. I know the Jets ended up getting 9 points in that first game against the Baltimore Ravens, but who knows? Maybe they can hang around against a team that's supposed to be a lot better than they are. And suddenly this first brutal stretch doesn't look as bad because, well, one, you're looking at the Miami Dolphins without their starting quarterback. The Denver Broncos look like a hot dumpster fire. Obviously, still going on the road there is a tough ask. And the Patriots, when they come up on the schedule, will probably be without Mac Jones. So you're going to see some backup quarterbacks on the stretch, and now you're 2-2, which is, I think, getting you off to a really good start to your season. Let's get into your comments the rest of the way. We'll hang out for probably another 20 minutes or so. We'll go through the biggest storylines from the comment section. First up, we want to say what's up to Kareem Mitchell will get us underway. And he says Quinnen was 100% right to scream at the coaches. Yeah, I get Quinnen Williams' frustration because the playing time still really hasn't gone up. I want to see if I could find I believe it was Buffalo Jet had it, the numbers. And I'm gonna just minimize this comment so that we could see the full thing. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna pull it up on the screen now for those watching it live. Sunday defensive line snap counts: Quinn 61%, Carl Lawson 53, JFM 48, JJ 34, Huff 14. A win gloss is over everything, but this is madness. Yeah, Buffalo Jet is right here, guys. I don't know how we could be satisfied with this number. I did a video earlier last week where I was talking about the Jets defensive line and the snap counts, and Quinnen Williams should be up around 70, 75, 80%, somewhere around there. Carl Lawson at 53 is probably still low. JFM needs to be higher. JJ needs to be higher. And honestly, Bryce Huff, when he was in, he was really good. I thought he was extremely effective when he came in and played. Why was he inactive for the first 3 weeks of the year? That sounds absolutely ridiculous. Don't quite understand that one. Manish Mim says Hall is stone hands. Yeah, look, to start the year, he's had a couple of drops so far. I think he's gonna get that evened out. It's not great. There's been a couple of drops. For instance, the one where he came back on the ball, Zach threw it, and it was underthrown. I'm saying underthrown in air quotes because I think that was done strategically with the defender all turned around. It was going to come back and kind of either draw pass interference or come back and make a play on the ball, and it went literally right through his hands. That wasn't even a stone hands. It was a butter fingers, I would call it, in that one. Peyton Russell, I like this comment here. He says, I think every game from here on out, except the Bills games, are winnable. I like that. And you know what? That's going to happen when you have a quarterback who plays well. And if Zach ends up building off of this performance and playing much more disciplined football and looking like the guy we all think he can be, then it's great. It's fantastic. That's something that you absolutely love. And good quarterback play makes that difference. And again, when you're looking at this schedule, now you have a few games where you're going to be going up against backup quarterbacks. This week is one of those times. The Miami Dolphins are obviously a good team outside of Tua's been playing great, but with Teddy Bridgewater, obviously they're not going to be the same team that we saw in the first few weeks. We saw the offense struggle once Teddy Bridgewater came in, and he's fine, but he's not the same caliber of player that we were seeing out of Tua early on this year. So that is going to make a difference. And I see it. I think the Jets, these games are winnable. And some of these ones where it's saying, oh, the Jets can win that game is going to end up turning into the Jets should win that game. We have our first super chat of the show. Going to go out to Peppy, 1994 chef. Will Dwayne Brown be back next week is what he asks. Well, I haven't heard anything yet on Dwayne Brown, but he is eligible to come off of IR this week. So if he does, I think that would be a great sign for this Jets team if he's able to come back and play, and especially play at the level they thought he would when they signed him or when they brought him in case of emergency, because I do not want to see Connor McDermott out on the field. He was atrocious, had 2 really bad penalties in the game, and they were doing everything in their power not to play him. He ended up having to come in because Max Mitchell went down. Now Max Mitchell's going to miss some time. He's not done for the year, thank God. He had to get carted off the field, but he's going to miss some time. So now it becomes a little bit of a question is, all right, what do you do at right tackle? And do you keep AVT at left tackle? AVT came in a pinch, which I was surprised with. I really thought they'd want to keep him at guard. But obviously they did not show enough faith in McDermott to play left tackle, a wise decision. And AVT came in and was mostly fine. Again, he's been elite at guard, and I would probably want to get him in a comfortable position through 20 career starts. He's played now 3 different positions in the NFL. He's played left tackle, left guard, and right guard. In college, he played left tackle, left guard, and right tackle. The only position he hasn't played and probably can't is center. So yes, he's extremely versatile, and I love how versatile AVT is. But I think in the short term, Dwayne Brown coming in and playing left tackle, and while George Fant is still out, I think Mike Remmers has to come in and play right tackle. I know he was just signed off the street, but I have a hell of a lot more faith in Mike Remmers than I do in putting out Connor McDermott, who just seems to get these weekly stupid penalties. Like, man, he got a penalty for he was illegal man downfield. Like these things shouldn't be happening. It's it's so annoying. I just don't want to see this guy in the field. Next up, we are going to go to John Canella. Says, despite the final stat sheet, I was incredibly happy with Zach's performance. Yeah, I think that's a fair way to look at what we saw out of Zach Wilson this past week, right? Like, obviously, the box score numbers don't jump off the page, but as we try to say each and every week, you can't always go off the box scores. One, drops were for sure an issue once again. And number two, what he was able to do in the second half and specifically that fourth quarter has to get you excited. It has to. Am I going to sit here and tell you Zach is 1,000,000% the guy? He proved it. No, the jury is obviously still out, but that has to instill some confidence in you that he was able to drive his team down the field twice and score when you're down by 10 points. That was impressive. Next one, we have Go Jared. Sorry, I am having a hard time reading that. Go Jared, whatever, on the name. Sorry, my bad. He says, I still have faith in Conklin. I don't like how people are trying to write him off. Yeah, it's frustrating with Tyler Conklin. He's a good player, and he made his presence felt again this past week. Unfortunately, the ball goes off his hands, and the drops and fumbles have been an issue. But I mean, another game where he puts up solid numbers. He had a touchdown catch in week 1, but it was 4 catches, 16 yards, which obviously is not great. But then against Cleveland, 6 for 40, 8 for 84 against Cincinnati. Yesterday, 3 for 52. He's sneaky put up solid numbers. He has 192 receiving yards. He's averaging 48 yards per game. So if you want to pace that out over 17 games, guy's on pace for an 800-yard receiving season. Out of the tight end spot, when was the last time we seen something like that for the New York Jets? Dustin Keller? That's crazy. Peter Damian chimes in and says, good news, Max Mitchell dislocated his knee. He will be back soon. Yes, that is a major win because obviously you do not want to lose Max Mitchell. I've been impressed with Max Mitchell, to be quite honest with you. I think that he's looked solid. And I think that, he has an opportunity to eventually maybe be this team's long-term right tackle. I don't think that in their perfect world he was playing this year. I think they wanted to develop him a little bit and have him sit, but he came in and in an extremely, extremely, extremely tough spot, played really well for this team. Knobcraft has a super chat. Thanks so much, Knobcraft. He signs in and says, can we organize a miracle style tryout for OT and find our own Marky Mark? Can't be worse than McDermott. LOL. Yeah, we'll do a little invincible tryout here for the New York Jets. Look, I don't have any faith. I'm sorry. I know that sounds harsh, but I really don't have any faith in McDermott at all. I don't want him starting on Sunday. I think obviously clearly the Jets don't either because they moved their right guard, who they recently just moved in the offseason from the left side to the right side, move him back to the left side and to play tackle, and he held up. In a perfect world, I don't think you probably want a long-term solution of AVT outside. But as Harold Johnson comments right under Nomcraft, and thanks again for the super chat, says AVT is our best lineman by far. That's not even remotely close. He might be you can make the case that he's been the Jets' best player. I would say Quinnen Williams has been the Jets' best player, but you can make a case that Quinnen, AVT, Sauce, DJ Reed, those have been the 4 best Jets in my eyes. And I don't think that's up for debate right now. I think it's clear that those four have been the best Jets. And what he's been able to do versatility wise for AVT is why you're okay with giving up that additional third round pick. Remember, that was the biggest storyline. Oh, the Jets gave up way too much. You can't give up all that draft capital to move up and get an interior offensive lineman. Well, guess what? He played well at left guard as a rookie. He played at an elite level, a top 10 guard in his sophomore year at right guard. By the way, the number one rated run blocker at the guard position in the NFL. And then in a pinch came and played left tackle and held up okay. There were a couple pressures, but he didn't allow a sack. He didn't allow a quarterback hit. So you have to love what you've seen out of AVT. There's a legitimate chance that he's a Pro Bowler this year. And that's the kind of potential that I saw when he was entering the draft. And a lot of people saw. I'm not going to, say, oh, I went out on the limb for AVT. No, most people saw what he did at USC and said, oh my God, this guy could be special because he plays on both sides of the line. He could play tackle. He could play guard. And he's a great run blocker. He is a perfect fit for this scheme. I love Elijah Vera Tucker. What a home run swing that was from Joe Douglas, honestly. She Carter chimes in and says, I live in Columbus, Ohio, by way of Queens, and there's so many Steelers fans here. I enjoyed every minute of this win, especially being the only Jets fan. Love that. I'm glad that you were able to celebrate that win. And how about that? Jets going on the road, winning in Pittsburgh. Still, I mean, the quarterback play for Pittsburgh was atrocious. The Jets had 4 interceptions. I didn't know they were allowed to cause 4 turnovers in a game. That sounds so un-Jets-like. But I'm glad that you were able to enjoy, and hopefully the Jets give us something at home to really, get on board with, because first 2 home games have been clunkers. Cincinnati was disappointing. It was a game that should have been a lot closer than what it was. And Baltimore was close for a while, but the offense just was not competitive at all. Thank you so much. Oh, I love this one. We got to get Frankie Petro on here. Or Petro says, Mika Fitzpatrick is so salty. Quote, we shouldn't have lost to a team we are definitely better than. Yeah, if you didn't see that one, I put that out on my social media. I was talking about it a little bit yesterday, and there is no reason for him to come out and say that. Your team has stunk through 4 weeks of the year, and there's some young players, and there are some bright spots on that team, and they are extremely well coached. Like, I think they do have a future there, but right now, especially with no TJ Watt, let's not pretend the Steelers are some, this isn't your granddaddy's Steelers who was, unbelievable in the 70s, revival in the 90s, and great in the 2000s. It's not, going into Pittsburgh and going up against Big Ben and Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown before he went off the rails. That was a wild video this week if you haven't seen that one. But I mean, it was Mitch Trubisky starting, and he was so bad, he was pulled, and the guy they put in, the rookie, and Kenny Pickett, threw 3 picks and a half. His first attempt was picked off. He looked great running the ball, but throwing it, not so much. Absolutely not so much. That was a very annoying quote there, which I did not love very much. I didn't love that. The Steelers are definitely not better. Ryan Thompson chimes in. He says, I live in New Haven or New Hampshire, probably. I don't know why. I saw NH and my brain went New Haven. But probably New Hampshire. Duh. Deep in Pats territory. And I happily rocked the Sauce #1 jersey, and Pats fans couldn't say anything about it. No, sirree, Bob, they could not. Because it was not a victory Monday for those New England Patriots. They fought hard, a lot harder than I thought they would, on the road in Lambeau, and almost won with their 3rd string quarterback. Yeah, that was crazy. Joey Carr chimes in. Thank you for joining the show, Joey Carr, with his comment. He says, how do we feel about the Salah slander? No other Jets team would be 2-2 right now with 2 come from behind wins. This is the culture change, and it's all because of Salah. Okay, I think there's a lot about Robert Saleh that I really like. I do believe that, number one, players love playing for this guy. He is the epitome of a player's coach. I do think that he is at times too stubborn, and his dealings with the media, especially the last month or so, and the injury timelines were not the best. No, I was not team fire Saleh. You had people after 3 games who were like, everyone, this coaching staff has to go. The whole thing has to go. Even throughout the game, when they went down in the game, it was like fire everyone, which probably a stretch. I'm still, the jury is still out on Robert Saleh for me. He deserves the benefit of the doubt. I don't think he is going anywhere after this year. If they like lose out, maybe he probably is going, or if they win like 4 games, but I don't think that's the case. I think this Jets team's winning 7, 8 games, and if they do that, he'll be back next year. And I think a lot of it's going to have to do with how the quarterback plays. But the culture change thing, you're onto something there, Joey Carr. I think it's okay to be critical of some of the in-game management and some of his stubbornness, but I don't think he should be fired or anything like that, if that's what you're getting at. Greg Newland, he chimes in with a super chat. Thank you so much for getting involved. He says, Mondays at work are so much better when we win. Don't know what it is, but there is just a different vibe going on. I was so happy this morning after. So here's my new routine as Maddie full times, as we gotta ban our first. I guess we made it as a streamer now if we're getting the porn bots in the chat. So my routine, I woke up, recorded my video for this morning. Like I said earlier, I was talking about Quinn Williams. I went on the Jets Lounge, which if you don't follow the Jet Lounge, number one, you should, and you should hang out in there. And number two, they are also doing, I wanted to mention, they're doing a tailgate for this game against the Miami Dolphins on Sunday, and they're donating a portion of proceeds to mental health charities. So it's for a good cause. It's a fun tailgate. I was there on opening day. So if you're going to the game, make sure to get involved and check out the Jet Lounge. But my routine. So went to the Jet Lounge. After that, I was like, all right, I'm going to go to the gym and then come back, shower, eat, and get ready for the stream at 2:00. But I was wearing my Jet sweatshirt, walked in, head held high, puffing the chest out, got a little strut in the step. It felt good, man. There was nothing like when you're in school and you go on Monday, wear your Jets jersey, your Jets sweatshirt, a hat, whatever, to school and be like, yeah, we're celebrating a victory Monday. And it's not like some Fugazi victory Monday where it's like, oh my God, the Jets were 3-12 and now they won and are 4-12 to end the year. No, they're 2-2 early October. This is good. Harold, you couldn't have said it any better, man. I couldn't have said it better myself. Harold Johnson comes back in and goes, Jets fans are emotional during the games. You don't say. Yeah, if you guys aren't on Twitter, which I am unhealthily addicted to Twitter. I love it. It's both the best and the worst at the same time. I love live tweeting games. I love putting my reactions out there. I love, talking with the fans. That's why I'm on there. But some people that living and dying with every single play is a little bit much. And I would like to think that I don't fall victim to that often. Maybe I do, but hopefully not that often. Nick W is here with a comment. He says we need to get CJ Uzama going. Yeah. Does he have a catch this year? Like, I genuinely have to ask myself that because he's been so quiet. Now, he did miss a game. He does. 1 catch for 5 yards in the Cincinnati game. That's all that he's had. Was not targeted. How many snaps did he play? He did have a tackle, so he was in on one of the interceptions. I would like to see him get going. He's getting paid a lot of money. To his credit, I will give him some credit here. He is definitely one of those veteran leaders that you like to have around. But I agree. I think you have to get him more involved. He's obviously tight end too. I think, myself, I was saying in the offseason, a lot of people were saying that Conklin has the higher upside. But I definitely think that you're right. You need to get CJ Uzama going a little bit more. John is back. He says offensive play calling has to be better. It was awful for the first 3 quarters. I don't know if I'd go as far as saying awful. I think it was inconsistent. They're very much so trying to get the ground game going. And I like that they were using Breece Hall more. Michael Carter didn't really have it yesterday. I don't think it was awful. I don't think it was as good as what we saw in the Browns game. I also don't think it's been as bad as what we saw in week 1 and week 3. I thought it was an okay Mike LaFleur day. Ooh, here's a good one. Ryan Thompson comments and he says the Jets are currently the 9th seed right now, and the Patriots are the 14th. I just that brings a smile to my face, right? After 20 years of absolute BS and nonsense, I absolutely love to see the New England Patriots struggling. They've had more than enough time to run rampant. I love it. John also has another good comment that I wanted to put up here. Hard to critique the rotation when it actually worked this week, but I think Quinnen definitely needs a higher snap percentage. Yeah, I mean, we showed it before. If anyone missed it, I'll pull it back up here. The Buffalo Jet fan had it. These were the defensive line snap counts from this past game. Quinnen 61%. That is still too low. Carl Lawson 53, JFM 48, JJ 34, and Huff just 14%. But I think he had 9. I think he was on the field for 9 snaps and he had 3 pressures. The guy's got to play. He has to play. I love it. Justin says there are way too many drops this week. It definitely felt like there were too many drops. Hot Sauce Jerk says, I would love to see number 20, so Breece Hall with 20 plus carries. He was getting close. I think what do you have? 17? I think that's absolutely something that's going to come. Bird Carries has a good comment. We're going to do a few more before we get out of here for today. Remember, we are doing these Monday to Thursday at 2 p.m. during the week. Excited to get these going. Bird Carry says, enough of the Corey Davis trade talk. We need that veteran receiver in the room. He was huge for us yesterday. 100%. He came up with a bunch of big plays on third down, I believe on fourth down. Yeah, the fourth and what was it? 4th and 6 and 7. Zach or 7. Zach hit him. No big drops, which is good. I think he's a solid receiver, and I agree 100%. I'm not trading him. It makes no sense. We saw last year what injuries can do to you, and then that's how you end up with Zach Wilson in Buffalo throwing to the corpse of Keelan Cole. I think Jamison Crowder was hurt. No Elijah Moore, no Corey Davis. I think Tariq Black was getting time. Denzel Mims, who did not look good. Yeah, I'm not trading Corey Davis. Maybe off season, maybe you cut or restructure or something like that. But I am not moving him in season. Zach's development is way too important, and he plays too big of a role on this team. Louis Bernard, as crazy as it sounds, I would rather start JJ over Lawson. We have seen growth from Jermaine Johnson over a penalty-driven Lawson. Yeah, the penalty from Carl Lawson was embarrassingly bad. It was a huge swing in the game because the Jets were down. It looked like they were going to put up points right before the half, and then they were going to get the ball to start the second half, which is great. That's what you want, obviously. But you get the interception, and then nearly as time expires, Carl Lawson has that 15-yard personal foul. A little bit of a baloney call, but still has to be a lot smarter than that. Puts the Steelers in field goal range, and now it's a 10-6 game instead of what probably should have been a 13-3 game or a 10-3 game at the half is then 10-6. That almost cost the Jets. Thank God it didn't, but that could have been really bad. Big Dog says, should we sign Crybaby Beckham? I know he's but we could use receiving. No. The receivers are not an issue. I don't no. Come on. You're better than this, Big Dog. Justin Coons says, was the last time we had 2 wins in the first 4 games 2015? I think 2018, actually. I'm going to see who was on that 2018 team. Well, obviously, that was his rookie year. So here, that's probably the easiest way to find it. 2018 Jets. They won their first. No. No, this is the first time they were at 500 in October. So yes, 2-2 through 4 games, at least 2 wins in the first 4 games since 2015. Yes. They were 3-3 through their first 6 games of the year. They won obviously on the road in Detroit. And then they lost to Miami, Cleveland, and Jacksonville to drop to 1-3. And then they won against Denver and Indianapolis to get back to 500. So That was the last time they were at 500 in October, which hopefully this year ends a little bit better because I think they would win just one more game after that. Yeah, that was kind of atrocious. We'll have time for a couple more, and then we're gonna call it a day. Hot Sauce Jerk says, "Yo, Zach can dance in that pocket. He's way more mobile than I thought." Yeah, he avoided so many rushers. He was pressured, I believe it's 15 times. I'm gonna have to go back and look at the exact number, but his time to throw or time from snap to pass was like third highest in the league this past week, or top six, something really high, which was surprising. But the reason behind that was because of how much time he was able to buy himself, which is what we were saying for the first 3 weeks is, all right, at least when Zach comes back, it's not going to be like Flacco where he's just standing in the pocket and can't move. At least Zach could move around a little bit. Kareem Mitchell wants to know, when will Quincy be back? I think a couple more weeks for Quincy Williams. Gotta say though, absolutely loved what I saw from Quan Alexander this past week. It's absolutely not someone I want to see less on the field. I want to see more of Quan Alexander. And if Quincy comes back, I hope it would be uh, in a third linebacker role and not necessarily bumping back Quan's snaps, because I think Quan's a better player. David says, "Oh, congrats on the new job, Matt. You deserve it after all the time you put into this over the years." Thank you. I am so excited to get this thing going, and maybe this is where we'll end off. This might be a good place to end, because I've been doing content, at least in some capacity, not just this channel. This channel, I think, is about 4 years old, but I've been doing content on the side for 7 years. And I've been either a full-time student, because I was in college when I started. I was a full-time student and doing content on the side. And then I was a full-time student with an internship and doing content on the side. And then it was a full-time job and content on the side, and then a new full-time job and content on the side. So I'm so excited to just finally get into just being able to do some content. This is really my dream and what I want to do. And hopefully you guys continue to join me on the ride. It means the absolute most to me. So thank you so much on a great first episode here of the Jet Report. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll be back. That was a weird way to say that. We'll be back tomorrow at 2 p.m. with a new topic of discussion and, of course, your questions. If you missed the show and want to listen to it in audio form, you can do that. Available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Matt O'Leary. I'll catch you next time, baby.